Hello, welcome to our playthrough of Through the Hedgerow and the free scenario Masters of War, which you can pick up on the Osprey site. I'm John, the creator of the game. I'm going to be the judge for today's story, and I'll let the players introduce themselves, starting with Carl.
Yep, I'm Carl, and today I'm going to be playing Dank with Darkly, a Tom Noddin who has an unhealthy obsession with death and masquerades as a Victorian Undertaker.
Right.
As myself, I've been role playing a number of systems for a number of years, mainly with John and our company.
Okay, Simon, tell us about yourself.
Simon, that's me, certainly am. Would you say Darkly had an unhealthy fascination or a healthy fascination?
I think he would view it differently to you.
Good. I really, really like that he did, because that would be worrying. Anyway, as I said, I'm Simon. Tonight I'm going to be playing Wally. Wally is, for want of a better name, Radcliffe Walsh. It's a very, very big name. He's a very, very little man. Poor fellow was struck in the Great War. We should not see wars like it again, but unfortunately we do. And he now wanders the hedgerows and the paths of England. A deep sadness about him, and sometimes a little joy may enter his life.
Sometimes a little darkness to him as well, which
Yeah,
we've
absolutely.
seen.
Sometimes a little ice cream. Me, I've been role playing since, oh Jesus Christ, not that long ago. It was the era when everybody was wearing day glow clothing and whatnot. There was a lot of hair gel. It was the 80s. It was the
80s. Good. I was
That dates me.
muddling my decades up there. And Alex, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Alex. I've been role playing for a few years, mostly with John Cole, and yourselves. So I'm going to be playing Tumbleguts the Bugbear, who is a Fey troll. Um, so seeking redemption after seeing the error of his ways and trying to earn his own path, really.
Yeah, absolutely. A redemption arc for a monster. Let's see how that works out. So, two of you, Carl and Simon, have played Dank with Darkly and Wally Walsh already in the other scenario for Through the
Mhm,
Hedgerow, which took place in the 1940s in the Age of Thunder. So this is the kind of second outing for them, and this is a bit of a sequel to that story. Alex is coming in as Tumbleguts for the first time, although you have played about with the system, it won't be entirely new to you. So I'm going to be asking you, Alex, first of all, to make a bit of a decision, right? The story we're doing is set in the Age of Swords, the Dark Ages, the 8th century, when the old shires are at war with the invading Danes and Prince Alfred, future King Alfred, trying to hold them off. This is your native time period. This is where you're from. So you won't be traveling through the hedgerow. You'll already be here when the story starts. Now, the story is going to involve a big battle of the men of Wessex versus the Danes. And I want you just to make a decision that you could start the story in the battlefield with everybody else. When they come out of the hedgerow, you'll be there waiting for them. Or you could start the story in the camp of Wessex, the camp of Prince Alfred, who he sort of began your redemptive arc, although this story is actually happening at a time for him before he met you. So you'll remember him. I don't think he'll remember you. So you could be with him and his side, or you could be with the Danes and their camp, which you might have infiltrated, trying to be useful, guided by dreams and omens from the light. So which takes your fancy? Meeting up with everybody else, being in the Wessex camp to hopefully meet up with Prince Alfred or his brother the king, or in the Danish camp doing a little behind the scenes skullduggery.
I feel like meeting up with us would be better for the simple fact that meeting King Alfred too early could be detrimental to his own path, to securing the direction that King Alfred gives to him in King Alfred's
Yep.
future.
Yeah. Okay then. I didn't anticipate you were going to make that choice, actually. So I might have to make some changes to the cards before I start using them. But that's okay. Good. So you're going to be meeting up with everybody else. Let's have a little talk about the conundrum then. So, Wally, when last we saw you, were enjoying some drinks at the Charnley Arms and wandering the countryside of 1941. And darkly, you'd returned to the 1840s to your undertaking practice, digging up and burying bodies in Victorian England, early Victorian England. But both of you going to be drawn back into the hedgerow on a new mission for the light. And Wally, you'll be joining the hedgerow first because you've got the furthest to travel back through the ages.
It's a long, long way.
Yeah, but I think probably after having sort of laid down your empty pint glass and waited expectantly for another one to be bought for you and finding no further drinks to be forthcoming, you'll wander out of the public house that you've been raising with your presence and be perhaps a little surprised and then perhaps a little dispirited to find that rather than a busy road outside, you are stepping into a densely foliaged lane between tightly pressed trees, their branches interlacing overhead. And when you turn back, trying to dive back into the pub, of course, there's no door there. There's just the hedgerow. So nothing to do but press on. And
perhaps a little tipsy still.
Perhaps a little tipsy. The hedgerow seems to be in winter. Right, the last time you saw anything of it, it was luscious and green. But now all the branches are bare, and there is snow and ice underfoot. It is bare branches overhead, lacing away, and dim glimpses through them of grey skies with racing clouds. And you will emerge into a wintry landscape of what seems to be a battlefield. In fact, it's definitely a battlefield. There are little humps in the snow and ravens pecking hungrily at those humps. As they peck, the white snow turns to pink and then a rich red. Various ravens pluck strips of flesh away from the corpses, revealing male armor. You can look down onto the body of what seems to be a Saxon or a Viking, all covered in snow, blotched with their red blood. And at this point, I'm going to bring in Darkly, who normally encounters the hedgerow, perhaps with a little bit more foresight in some ways, since you are yourself a fake creature. You'll read the signs, maybe bodies sit up in your morgue and say to you that, your service is required, and then fall down dead again on the slab. So when you leave your morgue late into the night and find yourself stepping out onto this wintry battlefield, you won't perhaps be quite as surprised, but you can draw your heavy coat around you. So both of you are together, Darkly and Wally, and here's what you see. In the midst of the battlefield stands a warrior in a masked helm that entirely covers his face. There are runes painted onto his skin, and 2 ravens perch on his shoulder, left and right. He roars out a challenge, and some clanking knights in mail armor come blundering through the snow. He exchanges blows with them and batters them to one side. He defeats all comers and then roars out a challenge to you. He's got a gigantic 2-handed sword and comes striding across the snow. The 2 ravens take flight from his shoulders and circle overhead, cawing furiously. You almost feel that those flapping brutes recognize you both, and there's spite and an unsettled score in their hoarse cries. I'll just pass on to both of you now. You tend to believe in the hedgerow you can't die here, but you've never put that to the test before.
Wally, I'm going to try to stand my ground. I can hunker myself up. It's cold anyway, so just like look, and I'm just going to make a gaze of this masked character and whatnot. And there's ravens here. I don't like ravens. We've had
they don't like you. The ravens swoop at you.
Ooh.
Yep, you've been here before in a battle with ravens, and with those things sort of pecking and cawing, the big giant strides past you, in fact, and raises up his sword, advancing on Darkly. Now, Darkly, you're not really a creature, I was going to say a man, but you're not a creature of war. What would you be likely to do as this berserk barbarian bears down upon you?
Well, I know this is the Fey realm, or the lands in between the hedgerow. I know that things here are actually a tangible threat, if not to your physical body, then to your immortal soul, or what stands in for it. So I'll be making quite a retreat. I think I will pedal away as rapidly as my multiple limbs can carry
as your
me.
multiple limbs will get you. Yeah, you dive into the snow and it comes down like a curtain between you and your attacker, and you find yourself stumbling up a faint hill, and at the top of the hill there's a pile of these bodies of Saxon knights in mail armor, and lying amongst the corpses is a wounded prince in bright mail stained with wet blood. Ravens descend, they pluck out one of his eyes and flap away into the storm. Simon, Wally, you've been stumbling the other way. The ravens suddenly depart from you. You don't know where they're going, though Darkly does. And you find yourself stumbling down a slippery slope, tripping on the icy roots, and at the bottom is a fire burning amongst the snowstorm, with a cauldron bubbling away on top of that. And behind the fire, the cauldron, a cackling witch of monstrous trollwife appearance. A raven swoops down out of the storm and drops an eyeball into her cauldron. She shrieks to you, Wally, "No more songs! Let there be no more songs to sweeten the winter wind." Looking up, you see, Wally, Darkly, you see a crooked tree looms over the fallen prince. It is a blackthorn tree. Bare branches, sharp thorns, except for one frail branch that has a sprig of white blossom at the end. The snowstorm descends, and when it lifts, you are no longer in the hedgerow. So, Tumbleguts, you've located the blackthorn tree because this is where, as the snowstorm momentarily lifts on a dark, freezing cold January morning, the Briar Knights emerge from the hedgerow. It's a hilltop marked by a twisted blackthorn, but it's not in bloom. All the branches are bare. Sleet blows through the air. It is the dark of pre-dawn. Up on a ridge above you, many fires are burning. Those are the pickets of a large Danish army, Vikings. Down in the valley, on the edge of the woods, are other fires burning. That is the camp of the men of Wessex, with their dragon banners unfurled. The Briar Knights are caught between the two hosts. With a sliver of red on the horizon marking the oncoming of dawn, these two armies are going to engage, and you'll be caught in the middle of them. Now, you've got a little bit of business to do in terms of your character sheets. First thing, can everybody roll their doom die? Because I need to find out how far the Nemesis is advanced.
1.
1, that's good news.
3.
Okay then, everybody. Nice low rolls all round. The Nemesis die, as I've got already marked on my screen, will start at nothing, a D0. If anybody had rolled a 4 or more, it would have been a D4. If anybody rolled a 6 or more, it would have been a D6. And having an advanced Nemesis die was kind of a problem. But the Margrave Raven is busy attending to his chess pieces on the battlefield, and you seem to have slipped out of the hedgerow without attracting his attention at all. How cunning the light can be on occasions. You need to roll the standard D6 to see how much gear you've got. And Alex, you can roll a D6 plus 1 because this is your home age.
4.
4. I think your character sheet lists your kind of repertoire of gear. Tick the 4 things that you've got. How about the other two?
I'm not rolling anything.
You never have anything, Wally, being a modeling.
I'm holy and I'm poverty.
Yep. And Darkly.
I rolled a 2, so okay. I'm going to take the concealing garb and the medical kit.
Because we know that they're both like super useful.
Yeah, they're pretty great. They're pretty handy.
Yeah. Good. You need, if you have spells, which is really only Tumbleguts, you need to roll your grammary die, which I think is a D4, to see how many spells you've got.
Yeah. All 4.
All four of them. That's good news. And then everybody needs to roll their resolve to see what that is this adventure.
Oh, I don't know if you can see that.
Oh dear.
Right.
Oh dear me.
Oh dear. Okay.
Oh dear me.
Makes me feel rather sorrowful.
You and me both.
I rolled a 4, so with my resolve bonus of +3, I will be on 7 resolve.
Okay.
Yes, so mine's 4 with.
Doesn't sound bonus. Too bad. And the final thing that Tumbleguts needs to do is that you have got 4 appetites, things that you like to and lust after devouring and consuming, and they're odd things, aren't they?
Yeah.
And not your standard array. You need to roll a d4 to see how many of those appetites are in effect, and then you can choose which ones you want.
No worries. Oh, the result, by the way, is 10 for me.
Oh, goody, yes.
Blooming heck.
Yeah,
2 of them.
bugbears have plenty of resolve.
Yeah, it's a D8 plus 4, so
Yeah.
stats up. Yeah, 2 of them. So
2 of
I'm
them.
gonna
So you've got
choose
undead. Yeah.
blessed, enemy, and consenting.
Yeah. So enemy is pretty cool. That means anything that is an enemy, you can eat it and get a respite, which is a really nice little reward. Consenting, anything that agrees to you eating them or eating part of them. And something that's been blessed. Now, of course, in some eras, sometimes it's hard to track down blessed stuff. Whether there's blessed stuff about on a battlefield, I don't know. But the Wessex forces will have priests amongst them. Undead, that's a bit of a mystery. I mean, the Raven Margrave has undead servitors, but whether there'll be any on this battlefield, I couldn't promise you that. So you need to make a choice of 2 appetites. What are you hungering for today?
Enemy, and we'll go with consenting.
Good. So if you absolutely need to, maybe somebody can let you chomp on a couple of their fingers. Eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Good. What's going to happen in a few moments is horns are going to come blaring out across the valley. There's going to be the beating of spears on shields, a red day, an axe day, and the Vikings are going to come down that slope. The men of Wessex, hopefully, are going to be meeting them in battle. This is a January morning in the year of our Lord 871. The Danes are invading Wessex, the last kingdom of England and the central part of the old shires. So if the men of Wessex can't repel the Vikings, then darkness will cover the land. One of the things that you will know, of course, is that the dark has thoroughly infiltrated the pagan religion of many of the Vikings. The Raven Margrave kind of passes himself off as the Viking Raven god, and therefore gets kind of dupes of the Raven god's priests and worshippers amongst the Viking ranks, and encourages them to do barbaric human sacrifice and all sorts of filthy things. There may well be some Vikings who are not cool with this, by the way. Not just because you're a Dane, it doesn't mean that you're a committed servant of evil. But if you like, the religious establishment of the Viking armies is subverted by the Raven Margrave, and that can cause us problems. So, brief discussion as we meet on the hillside, and then into action.
We're on the hillside.
You're on the hill of the Blackthorn, smack bang in the middle of what's gonna be the battlefield, with the ridge above you with the Vikings and the wooded valley below you with the men of Wessex.
Oh, I see.
Oh, soon going to be the battlefield as well.
So,
Yeah.
well, I would suggest that we make for an exit. Standing here is not particularly wise between 2 armies.
And so which direction to go in? We can cut across the battlefield, so north-south is the size of the battlefield, southwards or northwards, or we can try and go eastwards up the slope towards the Viking army, or westwards down the slope towards the Saxon army.
I would suggest that we would find greater friendliness among the Saxons.
Wally's been in between 2 armies before. He was on one side of them, and he's not enjoying being slap bang in the middle again. He just wants to move, and quickly, hunkering down. He's just going to follow what the others
So
suggest.
Tumbleguts suggests westwards towards the Saxons.
I would agree. I think that is a more sensible course of action.
Come, we
Good.
shall go around the camp.
I've
and then
made
begin
my
the round.
first nemesis check and rolled a 2. That's not enough to cause the dark to notice you, but then I will draw my first card. Now, this scenario's got a bit of a different structure to it, to the last one we did. Rather than giving you a big sandbox to run around and explore, as we had at Shelter from the Storm, in this time, the plot is based on a series of cards, tarot cards, each one of which is keyed to an event. Some of them have to be in the story, and I've got a set of them. One of them is the conclusion. That's at the bottom of my little deck, and I've dealt in 2 for each of you and then shuffled them up. So some things I've programmed in there, other things I don't know what's coming either. So this is going to be a bit of an exploration for both of us. My first card draw then is the Emperor. Oh my goodness. Right. let's have fun. As you make your way down the hill with the blackthorn on it, that snowstorm descends again, and in force. It is like some great hammer descends from the heavens and hits the land. The wind in this valley seems to boom like the inside of a drum. And the snow stings at your exposed flesh, reminding you of the pecking beaks of those ravens. In fact, it seems to you that there are ravens in the blizzard wind calling out to each other in croaking voices, what Tolkien would call fell voices. You kind of find it a bit hard to tell which directions you're even going in this state. You've descended the hill that the blackthorn was on, and I guess you're just trying to take whatever route seemed to take you down. But it seems in this confused state that almost every route you go in seems to involve struggling up some snowy hill rather than down it. You cling onto each other so as not to be separated, and then the snow parts like the curtain in the proscenium arch of a theatre, revealing the star of the show. Remember that masked and helmeted barbarian from inside the hedgerow? Well, here he is in the flesh, runes glistening with fresh paint, or is that blood, on his near naked torso. A masked helmet conceals his face, although long matted hair flows down his back, and those 2 ravens alight from his shoulders and circle, cawing into the air. Yeah, and he has his sword and levels it at you. His mere presence here on this particularly dismal encounter immediately increases the nemesis die to a d4. This is a lucky turn of events for the dark. Its champion has found you, and he intends to do. You ain't his main target this day, but if it can slay some Briar Knights, then it certainly intends to do what it can. Let me just give you a brief moment to think, what the hell are we going to do? And tell me how you're going to do it.
I would like to use Jenny Greenteeth's Laughter.
Okay, then. So that's tell us what it does.
So the target is befuddled by hallucinations and wanders aimlessly until the next sunrise or sunset.
That's if it's done as a dwemer.
As a hex.
As a hex till the next sunrise sunset. Okay, there's
If
an
it's done
emissary.
as a dwemer, affects the target at any range as long as you know the true name or possess something it does.
Yeah. Well, that one sounds like a bit of fun to do. If it works, it could help everybody out massively. Pulling something like that off against an Agent of the Dark is difficult, but at least the Dark isn't too, its nemesis die isn't too advanced at the moment. So that is the bugbear will stretch out his claw and start his charm. What about the others? Describe the story as you see it unfolding. I know.
Well, I'm not a character of of physical attributes, fisticuffs or skillet arms.
Um,
So I think discretion will be the better part of valor, and I will put myself behind Tumbleguts, and with you all the way, old boy, hey.
and Wally.
I'm going to rub my hands together and walk forwards and say, ha 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 ha! Excellent. We've found him already.
Is this you pranking him?
This is me pranking him. He's fallen into our trap.
Very good. For pranking him, you can spend a point of resolve. Yeah. And this sort of confusion means that the first threat level, in a sense, doesn't happen. It passes without him rolling the peril dice as he kind of draws back his sword and then turns his head and looks at you, this kind of frail little figure in his tatty coat and threadbare scarf and mittens. And just for a moment, this powerful avatar of the dark doesn't seem to quite know what to do. At which point, your spell goes off. Tumbleguts. So, casting these spells, you're doing it as a hex. So you're going to be rolling a die based on what normally you would roll your grammary die. Yeah. If you've got a herb you want to use, then you can burn that herb and roll, I think, a d6. Yeah. You could also roll your virtue die because you have arcane virtues.
Ooh.
So, which would you most like to roll?
I think I'm going to use my grammary die and burn the herb that
You have to choose one of them. Unfortunately, this is just a straightforward check to see if you cast the spell successfully. Hexes,
okay, cool.
very simple things.
I'll use the herb. Use the herb then.
Okay, so cross the herb off. That mint has been used off, and you are burning it up just to. It's not the herb specific to the spell. That would require Campion. So you roll that, and I roll the peril die for the. No, not roll the peril die for the spell. I just roll the check die for the spell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the peril die is called D6. So I roll and you roll. I get a 5.
I got a 1.
Okay, then.
Yep.
You can make this spell work, right?
Okay.
If you make up the difference in resolve. The normal rules don't mention this, but I've found this a very effective way to keep stories going. So if you want to spend, 4 resolve, you can use your own essence to power Jenny Greenteeth's laughter and hit him with this mind tap. Or we move on to the next level of threat and try other strategies.
No, I'll use 4 resolve to make it work.
Okay, then. So you briefly make contact with his mind as you sing the insane song of Jenny Greenteeth. And there is, a darkness in him that used to be in you, a sort of clouded consciousness, rage, bitterness, violence, all entwined together. Behind it all, there is a person, though. This creature is not entirely consumed by the dark, and you sense that it is that person that Jenny Greenteeth's laughter latches onto and draws out, and that person is terrified and confused by where they find themselves to be. The giant roars, clutches its head, with the raven circling around it. It stumbles away into the snowstorm and is gone. He will be back. The dark will be able to sweep aside your spell once the Nemesis die gets a little bit stronger. Okay, the snow lightens a little bit. Morning is creeping across the fields. Nice work.
That was effective, and we have gotten rid of the Raven's foil.
Yes,
Indeed.
for now, he will return.
He will
Be
indeed.
that as it may.
But at least we set him off for now.
We are free to go about our businesses.
So we've got a slightly clearer view of things now. The horns are blaring from the Danish camp. Let's go on to the next encounter. As you stumble away, I now roll another.
Ooh.
I think you're still okay. You've certainly confused the darkness by driving off its emissary in that way. Number 8, strength. The Viking shield wall advances down the hill. As far as you can see, in both directions, there are lines of men, shields locked together, spears resting over their shoulders. Down they come, crunch, crunch, crunch. Occasionally, squalls of snow blows over them, obscures them from sight. The line isn't total. There are gaps in it, but you're going to be caught in it unless you can get away. This is quite a powerful challenge to escape the shield wall or deal with the oncoming Vikings in some other way. So I need to know what you describe the story to me, how you get away or get past them or escape beyond them. What's the plan here? Run towards the Saxons, try and stay ahead of the shield wall, find a gap in the shield wall and let them march past you? Well, you tell me.
So Wally, he's going to, I mean, this is bringing back very, very bad memories for him. And the din and the hubbub coming from the advancing Danes puts him into mind of the bombing going on in the trenches. And cowering, he dives to the nearest snowdrift and tries to bury himself in it.
Right? What about the other two?
I think initially I'll try and pull him out by his leg.
I'm sure he's squealing at you. Go away and leave me alone.
Yeah, I think I'll be pulling at his leg, and then once a boot comes away, I think I'll ditch the boot and then run off back down the hill.
Okay, then, with your scarf flowing behind you.
Yep, and the hat like barely perched. Another pair of hands coming out of the collar just to hold the hat on.
What about you, Tumbleguts?
How big is Wally?
He's not a big man.
No.
Big enough for Tumbleguts to literally just reach down, grab him by the waist, and just pull him up, him up, and just dart for one of the gaps in between the shield wall.
Okay, that's going to be interesting. Right then. So,
stop it from being
certainly can do that because you're a big, strong thing. Right then. There are 3 of you, and because Tumbleguts is looming and is so big, you're always treated as if it's 4 of you rather than 3, because you basically count as 2 guys. That gives you scope 1, 2, 3. The shield wall counts as scope 4, so I'm gonna increase its threat level to 3. It's got 4 notches right at the start. So we've got 4 notches, which is going to make results pretty bad when we get to the end of this. It is threat level 3, so we're going to need to do 3 threats in total, which is not an easy thing to get through. Here is the first threat, and it seems to me you're doing it in this sort of way. Wally, you were going kind of stealth and hiding and stuff like that. You could, if you wished, roll your wits. I think the snow itself, as I've described it, if you just want to take advantage of that, is certainly worth a D4. So you can add that in as well. In this particular sort of challenge, you get to take as many dice as you can and roll them and look for the highest number. Remember, you can use your Doom dice for anything, and so you could include that in the pitch. So Wally, what you got?
Well, I'd certainly take the boot.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. I got an 8.
Marvelous. What was that rolling?
That was a D8.
And that was your wits, was it?
That was my wits, yes.
Yeah. Okay then. So that should be pretty good. And Darkly, running away down the hill. You could be using wits for that. You could be using might for that. I've said that there's a D4 just from the snowy terrain and the fact that it's downhill, so you can throw a D4 in regardless of what else you have. Oh, I can't hear you. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is I think I will turn at this point once I've got so far down the hill, and I can see Wally's like little burrow, or what used to be, like where his feet used to be. And I think I'll stop and I'll see that there's an advancing sort of column or line coming towards him. I think I'll try and attract some attention as the little dark figure in his deep brown
Oh, you'll
coats.
stand out against the snow.
Oh,
You
yeah.
certainly will. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to make myself quite wide and shout and flail.
Yeah, I think you could, charisma charm seems to be the dice to roll for that.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
And did you say there are going to be 3 levels to this?
There's going to be 3 rolls. Yeah, 3 threats.
Okay, right. So
Remember,
I
you
think
can shrink a die if you want to add a notch into add an edge into things.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my D8 charm down to a D6.
Yeah.
And I think I'm just going to stand with that at this point. So I'm
You can have
adding
the
a notch,
D4. You can have the D4 for the snow as well.
but I can only add that once per challenge, and we've got 3 levels. So I'm going to hedge my bets a bit.
Okay, then let's see what does the D6 get?
You're right. The D6 gets a 5.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, and Alex, the bugbear, you pick up Wally. I think that's kind of got to be done with might, really.
Oh yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be a D8 of might, and that will be.
Again, you could shrink it if you want to take get rid of some edges.
It's not a bad idea.
Do you want to roll a D6 instead?
Yeah, roll as a D6 instead. 6, even better.
Ooh. Okay, I'm going to roll the peril that's coming at you on this particular level of threat, and I'm rolling a D8 because an advancing army, it's pretty perilous. And I roll 1, right? So nobody loses any resolve at all for this level. The advancing Vikings see the capering figure silhouette of Darkly on the snow, and they step up the pace and go crunching and slithering and crunching again through the snow and ice. They pass by you like wraiths amongst the snow, with you hunkered down, Tumbleguts, with Wally slung over your shoulder. They're passing by you right now. So going into the next level of the threat, we've got 4 notches and 1 edge. If we can get edges to cancel out all the notches, then we'll get a nice success outcome. So what happens next?
Okie dokie. Well, what I think at that point, after I see this army is advancing and there's no point of stopping it, and I can't see the other 2 for the shield wall that's marched in front of them, I think if there's a little copse or a set of rocks or something, I'm going to use my wits, which is going to be a D6 to hide amongst the trees, and use the D4 for the snow to throw a few snowballs toward them as a bit of misdirection, and try and flip between the trees. So that's what I'm going to do.
And do you think you want to shrink that D6 for your wits to a D4 to gain another edge?
Well, what I am going to do, is I'm going to do that, just that, to shrink that to a D4. So I'm on 2D4, and then I'm going to use my many arms to produce another edge, as my many arms form and launch snowballs at a rapid pace.
Good. So,
So
a cannonade of snowballs comes from this little copse, splat, 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 into the shields and mail of the Vikings, causing them all to turn in that direction.
Okay, we got 2 1s. So,
so 1 it is. Yeah.
Not great.
Okay, we'll see what comes of it. Okay. As the shield wall is passing by you, what do you 2 wish to be doing here? I mean,
I'm just
tell me how the story goes.
Am I still suspended over the shoulders?
Presumably you're kicking him and struggling and let me going, and put me down, you hairy bird.
Get off, you great big bugger! I shout. What does my virtue eye for weakness do?
That's a very good question, and I have forgotten. Yeah, you count as skilled at any challenge you can size up beforehand, which means you get to roll your virtue die in that challenge and you generate an edge.
Would I have sized Tumbleguts up yet whilst I was over his shoulder? No, probably not. I'm kicking at him and I'm shouting at him to let me down. It's shield wall, so it's past us now.
It's passing you. It's not perfectly laid out. Getting a bunch of armored men to go downhill in a snowstorm, they're not going to be in a perfect line. So some groups are sort of lingering behind, and others have pressed ahead. So it's becoming ragged. There's still obviously advancing behind the shield wall. You've got the foot soldiers, if you like. So there's little knots of warriors moving through the murk. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to try to, once I've actually managed to get down, I'm trying to make my way past to just try to take out one of them from behind or something.
Just want to ambush somebody.
Just
you could use Eye for Weakness for that. If it's
I think so. So I'm like creeping up, sizing, and like it's Jerry in the trenches, and I'm trying to take him down just to make the odds a better, more favourable.
I love it. So
Wessex.
roll your virtue. You generate an edge. We've got 4 edges against 4 notches. So, but we've generated another notch now. Sorry, because it's the second level. So we're 5 notches, 4 edges, and roll a d6 for your virtue die. Remember, you can always roll your doom dive, and if you've got any traits that seem relevant,
I'm going to roll my doom die. Do you want to guess what I rolled?
1.
4. Okie dokie, and I rolled a 5 on my virtue.
And Tumbleguts.
So he's lost grip of Wally by this point, and Wally's kind of darting away.
Yeah.
So I think at this point, Tumbleguts is just kind of trying. He's not going to be very subtle about it. He's just going to try and burst through the foot soldiers in order to get off the battlefield. So going towards the northern side.
Them like 9 pins.
Yeah.
But what can we roll to do this? Probably you can always roll your doom die.
That's going to be my virtue of prestigious strength, and
so that makes you skills, so you can roll your virtue die, and you can generate another edge. Nice.
Yeah.
So if you want to roll your virtue die.
Yeah, that is a 2.
Okay. Right, and then I roll to see what the threat coming after, the peril coming at you from this level of the threat is, and it's 5. So, Wally, you don't lose any resolve. Tumbleguts, you lose 3 more resolve. You'll be toiling a bit. And Darkly, you lose 4 resolve. Right, here is the story as we come into the final level of this of threat for this challenge. We generate 1 more notch, the final notch, 6 notches. There's a squad of Vikings advancing towards the copse as they bark at each other in Norse dialect. That there's enemy archers in the copse. We want them to be in the eye, Sarge. As the cannonade of snowballs comes out from amongst the trees. So they level spears and go jogging towards the copse. It breaks up the line even further, of course, and there's horns blowing and the roars of their commanding officers that go unheard. Wally, you've mugged one of the Danes and dragged him to the ground. And Tumbleguts, you have gone smashing through a picket of soldiers. You took Tumbleguts quite a few scratches and wounds while doing that. Darkly, you haven't actually taken any wounds. It just represents the immense kind of peril of your situation now. Hey, we're going into the final threat here. Tell me what happens. We've got 6 notches and 5 edges.
Right, well, as a load of these skirmishers advance, I think it's time to break cover and run. So as they crash through the foliage, I think I'm startled and trip and fall, and then I'm up and off. So I'm going to be using my might and my doom to skedaddle away. And I think that's probably the best. I don't think I can quite make a good enough excuse for my concealing garb.
Not in this case, no.
No, I don't think so. So I'm on 2d4. I'm not going to be dropping anything.
Hey, wait a second. Didn't your Doom die go up last session? And Darkly then, D6 for your Doom die.
Yep.
Throw that into the mix. What have you got?
We've got a 4 is the best. 4 and a 2.
4 is the best. Okay, 4 it is. What's happening over on the other side of the battlefield?
This fellow I've managed to drag away from the rest of them, what size is he?
He will be a pretty hefty Dane. They're a tall breed, and he hasn't had 1,000 years of pollution, disease, and bad diet to shrink him down any as well either. So he's a big boned fella. You got pretty lucky, like jumping him and cracking him over the head with a rock. So he's dazed. He's probably the largest person you've ever manhandled in a fight in your life.
Okay, I was just going to tell him that I want him to stay down. I'm going to loom over him, drawing myself up to my full 5'1"ness, just hoping that the perspective makes me look larger. And just stay down there, lad. Stay down.
And because of the glamour, he'll entirely understand what you're saying. It sounds like you're using charisma then, Charm?
Yep. And that is a 1.
Oh, dear.
Ooh.
And Tomoguts.
So, but this one, I'd say that I probably made it to the edge of the battlefield, the northern
Sure.
edge of the battlefield.
Yep.
I can see that my allies are a little bit in precarious situations. So from here, with my trait of defiant, say standing against odds, I'm going to let out an ungodly scream and roar in order to distract and draw the attention of all of the Danes that would
I
hear
really
it.
like that. Yeah.
In order to pull their attention away from my allies and hopefully try and dissuade and sow some confusion within the ranks.
Good. When you use a trait, that usually gives you a D4, but I think you've kind of given such a kind of epic kind of vibe for that I'm gonna boost it to a D6 for the purposes of this roll. Yeah.
I'll be rolling my Doom die as well.
Cool.
So it'll be a 4 on the D6 and 2 on the Doom die.
Okay, so we're going with 4. And I'll roll the peril that everybody suffers. 1. So nobody loses any resolve. Here's the story. Darkly has gone scuttling away at great speed and is quickly lost with more troops coming through the snow the other direction. This is the oncoming Saxons. They go crunching past you as they advance towards the Danes, who are the full focus of their attentions, and they barely notice a figure like you kind of sprawling in the snow. Up on the hillside, your roar, Tumbleguts, has the whole battlefield stop and quake. For the Saxons advancing, it's like the Danes have summoned a demon. For the Danes themselves, it's some sort of judgment of Ragnarok. Everybody kind of breaks ranks and scatters, and their marshals all have to run up and down the length of the battlefield, blowing horns, erecting banners, trying to get people to reunite again. In the midst of all of this, you can have captured, if you wish, a Danish soldier, though you must tell me, Wally, whether you wish that or not. And you Darkly get away from the Danes. You can be behind Wessex lines if you wish to be, but certainly, and Tumbleguts, you can reconnect with Wally pretty easily by striding down the hillside. As soon as you can get a breather, and a breather's coming your way, you can then immediately reactivate all the dice that you've used and regain 1 resolve.
I would like to capture my hulking Dane.
Yep. Certainly, you've got him pinned down and at your mercy, and I think when Tumbleguts turns up, he can easily lift him and pin him quite satisfactorily. What are you wanting to know from this chap?
I haven't quite got that far.
Have a little bit of a think about it. I'll go over to Darkly.
Yeah, I've looked for if there's a caravan or camp followers or anything for like behind on their little stretch of ground. I'll be looking for some kind of fire or something because it's bloody freezing.
It is.
and all of my fur will only keep me so warm.
Up ahead is a large camp of burning fires, and you creep towards it looking for warmth. There's a big pavilion behind the picket, with banners showing the Red Dragon of Wessex, and also the Cairo symbol of the Christian faith. It's ringed about with little pickets of guards in mail. This is an entire Saxon army down here, and you realise that only half of the force has advanced up the hill. Another entire half of the Saxon army hasn't left camp. They've got their spears at the ready and their shields paused. The steeds are saddled but not mounted. Nobody's riding to war here. Why have they let half their force go to battle and the other half not? What do you propose to do?
Well, the best thing to do is to skulk about and listen to the general chatter. There's got to be some discontent, and it's got to be quite openly discussed, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So that's my plan.
Yeah.
I'm prodding my Dane ahead of me as he goes. Yeah. He's just trying to cow him, wants to work out what to do with the great big brute.
And do you have some thoughts about that, Alex? We've got you've met up with Wally. We've got a captured Dane. Oops, you're quiet. We need your voice.
Sorry about that. Yeah, say, well, he doesn't seem to be the most important if you can capture him so easily, but information is information. Taking him to the Wessex camp would be.
There's an entire battlefield between you and the Wessex camp because you.
Well, if we've gone to the very edge of it, we can walk all the way. We can walk down in order to.
Oh right, so we're going to drag him along, and with a hope to try and get beyond the shield wall, as it were, and then.
Yes, that was my
westwards
beyond the shield wall,
towards the Wessex camp. Okay, I'll leave you two doing that, which means I can attend to Darkly. Okay then. You've been snooping about. I think for like spying purposes. Yeah,
concealing garb. I'm happy to use that. Yep. So that's a D6 for items.
Please do. Yeah, but I'm only rolling I think I'll roll a D6 against it because there are like guards here. And I got a 4 as well, so you're okay. It hasn't the barrel hasn't exceeded what you rolled. Yeah, this is the conversation from the guards that King Ethelred is in his pavilion with his priests hearing mass, and won't wage war against the Danes until God has given him a sign. Some of the troops, some of the older sergeants are viewing that he was a little spooked by being defeated a couple of weeks ago in open battle, and feels that his own sins are being held against him. So only once he has kind of repented will God allow them to beat the pagans. Another soldier is saying, well, clearly his brother Alfred doesn't feel that way. He's already led the charge, but that's only half the army going against the entire Danish host. So Prince Alfred has got his job cut out for him up there, and if Ethelred doesn't get off his knees and onto a charger, he's going to find himself the last brother in the royal family.
Wow, it's quite a declaration.
So, Prince Alfred has then led half the army recklessly to engage the Danes. King Ethelred, his older brother, is still hearing mass.
Yeah, he's not ready, is he?
It's a different Ethelred, but I know,
but like it anyway. So yeah, like the point is to what to do about that not being a particularly magical fae. I think I'll set to pondering this as to how.
Shall I leave you to think about it a little bit? Certainly, I think you're more comfortable in camps with people than you are on wintry hillsides with armored.
Oh, certainly. Certainly. But I think I'm buying as to how to manipulate the situation. So I think there's going to be a lot of...
I'll come back to you once you've had a bit of thought there. Yeah. Back to the 2 on the hillside. I'm going to draw another card for you and make another roll. Still no problems with nemesis checks. Your wandering monster vibe is strong. What do we got here?
We're the wandering monsters here.
Okay, then. You'll like this one. The sounds of combat coming from up ahead. Yeah. Some Danes are being thoroughly thrashed by a troop of Saxon spearmen who've led a very brave charge uphill, have broken the Danish ramps, and are now kind of scattered as individual Danes flee hither and yon, pursued by spear-jabbing Saxons. And in the midst of them is an extremely tall warrior in a long mail coat, waving his spears about, shouting out in a slightly strangled sort of voice, "That's it, chaps! At 'em! At 'em! Stick 'em with the pointy end! Except no prisoners!" You can both of you make a roll using your grammary die, please.
Okay. Curse divide by weakness.
That's a 3.
That's a 1.
Okay, then. There's something odd about the tall commander, but you can't quite identify what it is. Anyway, most of the Danes now have either escaped or are being relentlessly skewered when they trip and fall into frozen ponds. And the tall Saxon commander strides about the place. He's got overlarge boots, which he occasionally kind of treads on his own pointy ends of them and stumbles a little bit and then straightens himself up. He keeps gesturing, "Keep stabbing that one," he says. There's a dead Dane in a pond, and the "Right, boss," says the Saxon soldier, and goes on to plunging it with the spear. "That's it. Any more dead ones? What about those two up there?" And he notices you three on the ridge. "That one looks a bit Danish," he says, pointing his spear at your prisoner. His men start assembling around him. There's 5 of them now, plus the tall one. "Yep, that's our next target, over there. Stay in business as usual. Tight ranks, pointy ends forward, and then stab, stab, stab. You know the drill."
At this point, I will throw the Dane forward and say, showing that we're not with him.
I'm going to push myself forward. I'm going to get myself in between the ranks of the Saxons and the Dane. He's my prisoner of war, and I have responsibility for him.
The tall warrior comes striding forward. He's an odd-looking chap. He's got long blonde hair, not unusual for Saxons. Yeah. But while most Saxons would be said to have straw-like hair, there's something very straw-like about this guy's hair. It's kind of knotted, and there do seem to be little like husks of corn kind of bound into it. He's got a kind of lean and intelligent sort of face with keenly glinting eyes. Again, his features are oddly kind of sharp and pointed. His armor seems to be assembled madly from all sorts of bits and bobs. He's got a tattered cloak wrapped around him, although he kind of slings it over one shoulder rather boldly. You can see that the boots that he's wearing are 2 different sizes. And his kind of knees and legs under the mail coat seem incredibly thin and spindly.
I'm going to bow to him and introduce myself. I'm Wally Walsh. Who might I be talking to, sir?
He says, bit of respect. Very good, Wally Walsh. Crawban, they call me. Crawban. You you'll probably know enough of Saxon. That means crow's bane.
Mm.
Hey.
Just trying to be useful for the good cause, like a good Saxon should, because I'm absolutely Saxon through and through. Yes, no danger I'd be anything else but Saxon, isn't that right? He looks at you both rather curiously, and here we come to his role. Oh my goodness. Then, as he looks at you, Tumbleguts, his face goes slack-jawed with fear. He says, Oh, you're them, aren't you? Right, he says. Turn around, lads. Time to report back to headquarters. Anyway, he says, very nice. I hope it all goes terribly well on whatever it is you're doing here. The light, marvellous. Keep up the good work. Must be going. And he directs his men around and starts retreating hastily from you in what appears to be great terror.
Well, he seemed like a nice chap.
If anybody wants a little bit more information about the world of the Hedgerow, you could, if you like, burn your grammary die, which means it becomes a size smaller for the rest of the adventure. And I'll give you the info.
Now, mine's a D4 anyway.
So if it's a D0, it means that you always get a result of 1 from it.
Yeah, go on. Why not?
Yeah.
Thank God,
Let's burn this.
Yeah. This means you see through his glamour. Crawban is a tatterdemalion, a scarecrow. He's been given life and sentience by the light for some reason, and he really should be back in a field somewhere. But obviously, he got a taste for the wider world, and when his job that he'd been animated to do finished, he didn't go back there. There are quite a few tatterdemalions about. They're quite good at glamour, and they can pass themselves off as humans, physically at least, but not always so good in terms of performing social roles. They are terrified that the light will get round to them again and reassign them to their fields, sticking them up on a big post somewhere, because they really like living amongst humanity and having adventures and doing interesting things. And of course, he's all recognised you as Briar Knights, and assumed that you've been sent to get him.
Oh, how little he knows we weren't, but
He won't know that. No. So you can share that with Dumbleguts. What do you want to do about him? He's currently trying to marshal his men. He seems to be very good at leading charges because he's utterly reckless for his own life. But persuading them all to retreat and go back down the hill is proving a bit difficult. One of them says, "I'm still stabbing this one, boss." So, well, leave off stabbing it. We have to be going. Bye-bye, he says, waving to you. Bye-bye. Just down the hill now. That's the way. Back to camp. All of you. Yes, and you.
Do you tell me this or not, Wally?
yes, absolutely. You're getting all of this.
Yeah.
If
If Wally says to you,
Second,
tatterdemalion, then instantly the knowledge will kind of
yeah,
flood into
and
what they are.
it all makes sense. So the mouse in his midriff and etc. etc.
the second that I know exactly what's going on, I just march forward, say, going through the snow, say, as if it's not even there. I just put my hand on his shoulder. We're not here for you. You can carry on your business. You can have all the fun you want.
Right.
We would like your help, though.
Okay. You can roll your charm, and I'll roll for him. What you got?
3.
You got a 4. If you're prepared to spend a resolve, you can match his roll and persuade him. I know that you're desperately short of resolve.
I am. Okay. I'll spend 1 point of resolve.
Yeah, that's all you need.
Yeah, I'll spend the 1.
Okay. Crawban, in that case, falls to his knees in the snow. He clutches at your knees. If you don't send him back to guard a wheat field, he will vow service to you. Yeah.
Let's not send him back.
Yeah.
No.
He and his troops count as a D6 ally. So basically, that's another dice you can roll for challenges. He's got the description wily and ferocious Fey warrior. So in any challenge where being wily and ferocious and a warrior might help, he's given you a D6 the first time you use him, then a D4 the next time you use him, then just 1 the next time you. So you could get a few uses out of him. And he also confers deadly in heroic battle. So if you actually get into a full-on fight, then he's rolling a d6 plus 3 as a die for you.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, he is known in the Wessex camp and can march you straight in there. Yeah. He's also known in the Danish camp. because he's had quite a few disguises over the years. And although he'd have to leave his troops behind, he can march you straight in there. Have a think about where you would like him to take you. Let's go back to the Wessex camp. What do you think? Darkly. Oh, sorry, needs your sound again.
The only way really is to take a direct course of action, I think.
Yep.
And it's to at least, if not gain an audience with Ethelred, because that's going to be nigh on impossible. To use my other talents as a Tom Noddin to otherwise squeeze, finagle, clamber, and slide my way to at least probably to the, if he's got quite a grand pavilion or tent, to make my way into the chimney, through the chimney of that, because I assume he'll have a fire in there.
Yeah, there'll be big ropes holding it up, and clambering along them takes you over the heads of the guards, and you can then creep around. It's big leather plates of the pavilion. It's not a floppy, blowy sort of thing.
No, it's going to be a big hide
quite
thing.
rigid, So you can clamber along on that, and then squeeze yourself between the plates in the roof, and suspend yourself Spider-Man style from the roof and look down. Yes, there is a wooden screen cuts across the inside of the pavilion. On one side of it, you've got 3 monks and a priest performing mass. They've got a little altar set up there, and they are chanting their lugubrious chants and performing their wonders with bread and wine. The king himself is kneeling on the other side of the little screen. The monks come out to, the priest rather comes out to dispense the bread to him and the wine to him, and takes it back on the other side. And the screen itself has got a number of iconic figures on him. There is Ethelred. He's a young man himself, in only his early 20s, but kind of lean and scholarly looking, doesn't look like much of a warrior, and is praying fervently over his own sins. He's the real deal in terms of piety.
Yeah, that's definitely the angle that I think I'm going to be trying to exploit. If I can, is there any sort of furniture or anything that I can squeeze myself into or under something, as to not be visible?
Yeah, around the sort of entrance area of the tent, there is a couple of kind of rooms have been created by interior paneling, and there's clearly a kind of resting chamber for the king, and a dressing chamber with his suit of armor on a stand, and a number of big chests here with traveling equipment and changes of clothing. Yes.
What I'm aiming to do is conceal myself within earshot, so that I can start, a conversation with him effectively, but there will be no figure present, as it were. So whether he wants to take that as a manifestation of his own conscience or of God, is his own lookout, really. But that's what I'm aiming for.
Right, so there's this sort of disembodied voice is going to come,
and how he
he
wants to interpret that is his own business.
That sounds pretty good. What's the disembodied voice going to say?
I've got a bunch of things to lead with. How could the Lord forsake a pious champion against heathens? Godless heathens, the Lord could not abide. That's my opening.
Right. And I think we're probably best off doing this as a bit of a challenge. The peril is not going to be great, except unless you are discovered, in which case it suddenly becomes enormous.
Oh, yeah.
We'll treat it as a D4, and then the peril die might increase depending on how things go. I think that we'll probably need to do 2 threats. So it might go up to the paradigm might change next threat level. There are currently no notches, but one will appear next threat. So what are we using here then? Wits to get him thinking, or
I think I'm going to go with wits initially. I think
roll your wits.
Yeah, that's what we're going with. I'm looking for Yeah.
Again, if you
I
want to
think
shrink it
I'm
to a
looking.
D6, you can
I th-
generate some edge.
yeah, I think I'm gonna. Well, it's a D6. I'll be shrinking it to a D4. So I think I'll do that, and I'll also tap my character trait, Spark of Humanity,
Yeah.
to try and opine to his sense of
Oh, that's
decency.
nice. Yes. Okay.
You know, that how can what I want to sort of lead with my whole thing is, you know, are you not ordained and given a mandate by the Lord? And is sloth in action surely a greater sin than whatever you carry? Hesitation may cost your family the kingdom and condemn your subjects. So yeah, I'm going to generate an edge, and I'm rolling 2d4.
Yep.
We got a 3.
Yep.
And a 1, but
good. 3 is enough. You don't lose any resolve.
good.
Ethelred is stung by this. He raises his hands to heavenwards and says, Lord, if you are speaking to me, why do you plague my kingdom with the fury of the Norsemen? If it is not my sins, then whose sins are being punished here? The sins of my father?
I think
Our ancestral sins because our great-grandsires in their ignorance worshipped false gods?
yeah. I think
Who is at fault?
well, I'm definitely gonna lead with charm at this point. And I think I'm not gonna directly, you know, state that there is a fault, you know, a central fault here. I think I'm gonna suggest, you know, to have faith and not let doubt cloud a true heart. The ravens are gathering. Are they not messengers of damnation? Take up arms and scatter the craven things to the wind. So I think that's what I'm gonna go with.
Good.
I'm not gonna answer his question. I'm just still gonna appeal to his sense of decency of being a ruler. But it's going to be much more charming rather than attempting to outriddle and outwit him.
Good. We're one notch, one edge.
Cool.
Happy with that, or do you want to be an edge up on the deal?
Well, you know, I'm gonna go for an edge up on the deal. So my charm is a D8. I'll shrink that to a D4. I think.
I'm going to increase the power die to a D6 just because the monks and priests will come running around the screen at the sound of the king calling out loud. You know, people didn't pray silently in those days. So you roll it.
Yeah, right, okay. Off we go. We got a 5. Not bad.
You're fine. I only got a 2.
Oh, that's bloody
right.
lucky.
So the challenge is over. You ended up with 1 notch and 2 edges. So you're an edge up on the deal. +1, that's a minor success. Yeah.
Ooh.
You succeed in a way that solves the problem in a quite uncomplicated way without any kind of unfortunate side effects lingering around. So Ethelred will stand up resolved. He will push the monks aside and say, enough. The Lord has heard enough of my prayers. Continue saying mass. Let the incense burn, that I ride to victory with my brother. And he sort of seizes up a horn and blows it, and his companions come running, and he throws out his arms wide in the shape of a cross, but they, of course, start strapping his armor onto him. Nicely done.
Smashing.
Back down the hillside. Here is the next encounter. What's this? Death.
All right.
Yeah.
We bid Master Crawlbane to help us get towards the Danish camp and infiltrate.
If you command it, masters, he bids farewell to his Saxons, tells them to get back to find Prince Alfred, defend him with your lives wherever on this battlefield he may be. Several of them embrace him, weeping. Although he's peculiar, they've grown to love him. Plus, which he's led them to victory. Then they march away, and he leads you up the hillside. Battle has swept over this field, leaving it full of corpses. Now, there is one. Oh, excellent. Nemesis check has just pinged something for you. More about that in a moment.
Cool.
Oh, yeah. There are so many, many corpses lying in the snow. Many of them are armored and armed. So if you want to search the bodies, if you're looking for weaponry or armor, if that's kind of something that might be useful for you, let me know.
Yeah,
Finding something in Danish colours would be good.
Sorry?
Something in Danish colours.
You can certainly find a big Danish cloak and wrap it round you. Treat that as it will have the same effect as concealing garb, but at D10 rather than D8 versus Danes.
Yeah, I'll try to find some sort of helm as well, and a cloak as well, and maybe a dagger or some such.
Okay.
Defend myself.
Okay. I will make some rolls for those things in a moment. The problem is the ravens feasting on the dead. And as you start poking around the corpses, the ravens start pouring at you in a kind of throaty challenge, as if to say, this land is ours and you don't belong here. And as you kind of persist in ignoring them, more and more of them take to the wing, circling overhead. And then you see, bearing down from the east, a great crowd of the things. Now, Wally, you've seen this before.
Yes, absolutely. And at this point, I've no liking to find myself in the middle of it. So it's a toss-up between finding the nearest snowdrift again.
Oh, by the way, you've both regained a point of resolve because you would have rested, had a breather, and got all your dice back after the last weekend.
Good. It's either a case of we get Master Crawlbane to live up to his name, or we try to just hide from the bastards.
We should explain to you, Alex, what this are. This is a malignity of crows. It's a kind of great collective intelligence manifesting itself in ravens that serves the Raven Margrave. They can be physically dangerous because they can peck your eyes out, but more to the problem is they alert the Raven Margrave to your presence here, pushing up the Nemesis die.
In which case, let's dive for the nearest snowdrift and try to cover ourselves over with some bracken or just anything.
Yeah. Yep. Scope 3, you two together are scope 2. So I'm pushing up their threat level to 2. That means we're going to have to make 3 challenges. No, I'll tell you what, I'll keep it at 1. I'll just take the peril die up to a D8. We're going to have to make 2 threats challenges with them. They've got overwhelming because there's so many of them. So they start things off, oh, that's not so bad, with 2 notches in the frame. And your plan is hiding. So tell me the story. You can describe it to me as if you were the GM, and then we'll make some dice rolls to see how that pans out.
So, trying to grab their attention away from us, because I know just what these little blighters can be like en masse. The first thing I'm going to do is to look at any of the bodies here, anything glinting about them. I'm going to throw in the opposite direction for us, just to try to draw their eyes. And maybe,
you know what? That can count as your prank.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you spend a point of resolve, then we can just skip the first threat level. Yeah.
Yep.
get past it. We don't generate any edges or anything like that, but we don't have to deal with them. So the entire malignity will descend on a distant part of the battlefield while you threw the shiny stuff, some silver Danish coins, and they swirl about that, coring, and while you kind of hastily make your way away, but then they'll detect movement and come rushing almost at ground level, flowing like a great black wave over the battlefield towards you. Well, they've generated another notch, though, so we've got 3 notches now, which is going to make for a terrible level of success, almost no success at all. And we've got to survive one more threat against them.
So as they come swooping down us, I think the trees are heavy with snow, and as they reach us, I'm just going to get my compatriot to give the tree an almighty thump, and the snow will descend upon them, knocking them to the ground, where we can kick the beaky bastards in their eyes.
I love that idea. Do you think that's a prodigious strength activity?
I would have said so. Which
means that you can have you've got a choice here. You can, if you can roll your you can roll your might.
Yeah.
Why not? You can also, because of prodigious strength, roll your virtue, and because it's prodigious strength, you generate a edge.
Okay, I'm going to roll my might, and also.
So you can roll all of those things because this is a challenge. So you just roll the dice you want to use.
But I'm shrinking my might from a D8 to a D6.
Right, so you're rolling 2d6 and you're generating 2 edges. Right.
Yeah.
So could I assist him in kicking the tree?
Well, basically, yeah, you can reroll your might, or you might think it's wits that you're using because it was your kind of plan that he's following.
Yeah, so literally, as he's kicking it, I'll just be like just trying to size up the tree just where it's going to hit it just right.
And you're wanting to use that eye for weakness.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to allow that. So you can be using your virtue there. That'll generate another edge. So we generate 3 edges. That's fantastic. That wipes out all of their notches. And you're going to be rolling your virtue die. So everybody roll away. You can roll your wits as well if you want to be rolling virtue and wits.
Yeah.
Why not? So we don't want to lose any resolve to these guys, because if you do, they will trigger their alarm effect and they'll notify the Raven Margrave.
My highest was a 4 for my virtue.
Oh dear.
Mine was a 5.
Okay. And mine is a 5 as well. So Bugbear, you don't lose any resolve. Wally, you lose 1 resolve. The snow will come crashing down, crushing the ravens, just little black feathers poking out amongst the snow. However, a couple of ravens do survive. It almost looks like the 2 that were sat on the shoulder of the great berserker, and they go spiraling off into the wind-blown skies, cawing vengeance and alarm and alerting the Raven Margrave. They've used their alarm function, and the nemesis die is going to increase to a D6. There we go. I'll leave you both kind of like half buried in snow under the trees, and just go back to Carl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're still like hiding in the tent. While Ethelred is summoning, bring me my page, bring me my horn, bring me the sword Galfring that my father wore, and giving out all these commands, another figure has arrived in the pavilion. A tall, dark-robed man with the kind of shaved pate of a monk, an abbot, you would think, by the kind of jewels on his rings, even though he's dressed in a kind of hempen sackcloth. He is greeted by the king as being the Abbot Childeric.
Mm-hmm.
A name that might be familiar to you. Yeah. Childeric is appalled. What is this call for action and bloodshed? Mass is still being spoken, prayers are still being uttered. Will you follow your impious brother? into battle and damnation, not having yet received the full blessing of the Lord? And Ethelred hesitates. There's something about Childrick. You notice that the big cross round his neck is of iron, and it seems to sort of throb, making it a little bit difficult for you sometimes to understand everything that he says. Yeah, Childrick is a powerful man, and the power of cold iron is strong in him.
Yeah, okie dokie. So that will give me what, old wisdom, law, being a fey creature.
Yeah,
I'm not particularly fond of cold iron in the
you do not like
slightest.
it. It tends to ruin your abilities. It
Yeah.
breaks the glamour, causing people to see you as what you are. You can't use your fey powers on it. He's got a whole bunch of dark-robed monks with him, all of whom also carry various implements of cold iron.
Okay. I think, yeah, I think the point is to put enough pressure at this point. I think it'd be like, oh right, I see that this is happening to to Ethelred. So it'd be a case of, saying to his troops, like, didn't you hear the horns? Like, why have you not fully mustered? Why are the horses like still unsaddled? Where are your arms?
So you're wanting to leave them to it, get out of the pavilion, and start leading the muster yourself, as it were.
Well, effectively just questioning why they deny their king. Like, do you readily disobey your liege lord?
I like it.
Did you not hear the call to arms, the muster, the horns?
So you're going to be doing, okay, I'm not going to do this as a full challenge. I'll just make this a simple check of, I think, your charm here. I'm going to make the peril die based on Childrick's peril die, because,
he's
he
a
will be
dangerous
out
guy.
there in the camp telling people like the opposite, stand down, the king's horn has not been sounded, the battle cry has not been given. So, and if you two run into each other, then there's a very good chance he'll see right through you.
Yeah,
so I'm going to use a D8 against you here.
Yeah,
it's not a challenge. You don't need edges. It's just one of us is going to win, the other one's going to lose.
Yeah,
you can always spend resolve to try and make up the difference. Okay.
Yeah. So off we go.
I got a 5.
I got a 5 as well.
Okay. That means you win. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, because you matched it. So you've got enough of the. So this means that soldiers are going to be running into the pavilion, going, the knights are on a horse. The standard bearer is ready. We await only your command, sire. And that will be what nudges Ethelred in to causing the horn to be blown.
Yeah, he's
echoes
committed
across the fields, and the host of Wessex is moving. You've just done a very good thing there. I'm taking the Nemesis die down by 1.
Good show.
That doesn't happen very often. Yeah.
Excellent stuff.
Back on the battlefield amongst the corpses. Here's the thing you've noticed. 9 or 12. There's another figure prowling amongst the corpses now that the malignity's gone. It seems to be a withered and naked old man whose only clothing seems to be his very long beard and a ragged, tattered piece of cloak, which he has got kind of wrapped around his skinny arms and slight pot belly and pulled up as a hood over his head. He scuttles crab-like from one corpse to the next, poking at them with his long, filthy fingers. Tell me what you want.
Good Lord, he'll catch his death of cold in this weather. I'm going to... brushing the snow and assorted dead ravens away from me. I'm going to stomp over to him and say, I'm going to say to him, You best get yourself a cloak from one of his here fellows, or you'll be catching your death of cold dressed like that.
Hey, this rather pathetic figure looks up at you from under his filthy robe. You notice what he's got in his hands. It's a collection of teeth and eyeballs. You also notice that he himself has only got one eye, and the other is a bloody socket. He cackles manically and says, old Grim doesn't feel the cold. No, not on the long shore of Nastrond. Certainly not on a balmy summer field like this meadow.
And I take a step backwards.
What have you got to say, Bugbear?
Tumbleguts will walk forward, seeking to add to a collection or searching for something specific.
Searching for wisdom, he says, although I seem to have traded something very important for it, and now I forget what. So I ask them all, and he puts his fingers into the mouths of one of the corpses and says, speak! But the corpse lies there, staring blindly at the sky, and old Grim curses and scrabbles at his eyeballs. He seems half mad.
Just
or maybe 3/4 mad.
Maybe 9/10. So, they talk back to you often, do they, sir?
Oh, they have all sorts of words for me. What are you? What are you that prowl amongst the places of the dead? What wisdom are you looking for?
We're looking for the Dark One's champion.
Oh.
Aye.
Well, perhaps I can help you with that. If you can help me, then I can help you. Can you answer a riddle?
Hopefully.
I can give it my best.
Then listen to this. I consume myself, yet I am not consumed. I alter not, when alteration I discover. I am a fire that cannot be extinguished. I cross battlefields to seek my cold kindling.
Are you sticking it in the chat there, John?
I am doing, yes, I'm just looking for the text version.
Good-o.
No, at first I was thinking more something akin to like an Ouroboros snake or something akin to that, but now I'm not quite. But the kindling thing is throwing me off for it.
I was thinking it was a fire until it was blatantly said.
So,
Yeah.
Oh, it's just sort of postmodern riddle and whatnot when the answer's basically given to you.
Well, there is. If I see it in text, my other theory is that it's death, but
Here it comes.
We either answer him death or we take it away and mull on it.
Take away and mull on it for a minute, I think.
I mean there is there's just other things that throw me. Because there's an argument to be made for it to be hope.
Yeah, that's true.
He's a tricksy fellow, this fella.
Well, I mean, it is Odin, isn't it?
Mm.
He loves riddles.
He does indeed.
That's his whole shtick.
His whole shtick. I'll leave you pondering it.
Yeah, give us a while to mull it.
So I'll pop back to Darkly. I mean, the host is now advancing. Mm-hmm. So you've really got nothing to do but advance with them, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's following the wake, really. Yep. I can't imagine they're going at speed.
Yeah.
It's difficult to take a battle host at any sort of pace.
Indeed it is. I mean, the shield wall advances up the hillside, but obviously it quickly breaks out into skirmishing bands that engage with Danes. The king himself, his horns are soon lost in the snowy distance. Some sort of massive confrontation is going on in you think, the general direction of the thorn tree where you appeared.
Yeah.
But you've discovered something slightly different, Mr. Darkly. Again, you've come across an area of the battle full of corpses. Danes and Saxons. No sign of those horrible ravens, but a figure is moving through the field, examining the bodies. It's a warrior in a long fur cloak, with a helm, a sort of full helm, kind of winged at the sides, and a spear lashed to the back, and a rather heavy round shield with a Danish rune on it. This figure is turning over bodies, heaving them over, examining their faces, and then moving on to another body, particularly Danish bodies, turning them over, examining them. Seemingly, the movements of the figure suggest desperation, or at least intense emotion. There's a sort of hurry and a kind of spasm of disappointment as they check each body.
Because it's clearly somebody looking for something, and it isn't the warrior that was seen earlier.
That figure was almost naked except for the
That's
robes.
what I was expecting. Like, he had a helm and maybe some wee boots and very little else.
Yeah. Whereas this one, big fur cloak, nice equipment. That's calf skin boots. That's this is a well accoutred warrior. And then you get a bit of a shock because broad shouldered though this figure is, when they turn more in your direction, you can see that it's a woman. Shielded with her hair braided and coming down the front of her body and kind of strapped to her shoulder. And is that's why she has to sort of struggle a bit sometimes to turn over some of the mailed bodies and checks a face, curses, and stumbles on to another body.
Okay, so this is like a lady of a sort of Brienne of Tarth build.
Yes.
This is, this is a big lady.
Yes.
Right. Okie dokie. I'm quite curious. Like, I guess that they're just picking through the battlefield. She's clearly looking for something, whether it's a lover or a rival. Probably a rival. Yeah. I mean, I'm not, like, it's clearly a Norse warrior. So at this point in time, not exactly who I'm looking for, is it?
I think if you hesitate long enough, like she'll notice you.
I'm not sure what to do with the information.
Stands up straight, points a spear at you, and says, "Name yourself, for I am Freydis, daughter of Bacteg."
Darkly, Dankworth Darkly of Darkly's funerary services.
Funerary? Are you a priest of the Raven God?
Well, not quite, you see. I perform all sorts of services, but I'm not subservient to the Margrave.
Your words are strange to me in that regard, but if you are a provider of services, then tell me this. Have you seen Sidrock the Young on this battlefield? For I seek him, and my heart yearns to be beside him.
In what capacity?
Is he alive, or has he been struck down?
I assume you'd wish to join him in either capacity.
That is wise and true. I take it you have seen him not.
I have not, though that does not mean that I cannot look.
Well,
I'm rather handy, you see.
Are you prepared to make an oath to her? Because at the moment everything brightens and you feel the attention of the light falls upon this particular moment.
Yeah, I'm a fey creature. We love that stuff. Like, well, I tried to avoid it really, really readily, but at this point, I think the light's trying to do me a solid.
Right. Well, let's first of all make a glamour check to see if she. But you can use your concealing garb.
Yep. Okie dokie. Well, I can't use my concealing garb, can I? because I haven't had a rest since I
Oh
last
yeah, no,
used
you had
it.
a rest after the horns were sounded.
Oh, I had a breather. So do I
So
get my
you
equipment?
got point of resolve back there. Yeah.
Okie dokie. And equipment's a D6, isn't it?
D8 for concealing garb.
Oh, righty ho then. I'll use my concealing garb and my gramarye, which is a D4.
No, you just use just a check. So just pick the best one and roll that.
Oh, right, fair
It's
enough.
not a challenge, just a simple.
Yeah,
check.
that's fine. So we got a 3, so
Okay.
not great.
But she's a 2, so it's enough. She doesn't see through you. And here's her oath. Swear you will go with me to seek my love and stay with me till I am beside him again in life or death.
I believe those terms are acceptable. Yes,
Good.
yes, I shall accept your command, as it were.
Great, which means you're now under oath.
Yeah.
Which means, for one thing, your doom die only increases if you want it to.
Mm-hmm.
And for another thing, all of your traits are worth a D6 rather than a D4.
Yep. Perfect.
And if you fulfill the oath, you can claim a reward.
Oh yeah. So stick with her and find. It was the younger, wasn't it? It was.
Yes,
What was his?
Sidrock the Young.
Sidrock the Young. Smashing.
I think we can probably bring your two groups together now. Let me just make another nemesis check, but I think we're okay
got
there.
an idea of what that riddle could be. Just before we say move on properly.
Yeah.
Fear.
You think fear? Do you want to talk me through it?
Yeah. So fear. Fear eats away at you, but it doesn't disappear. It doesn't.
True.
But it doesn't leave.
Diminish.
Fear can change. Say what you fear will always can adapt quite rapidly, but it doesn't change the fact that you are afraid. So you can never get rid of fear. You simply have to overcome it, but you're still afraid. You're just trying to fight past it. And say fear is the tingle at the back of your spine.
But what about crossing battlefields to seek my cold kindling?
Yeah, the fear is the tingle at the back of the tingle at the back of your spine. Fear is the cold sweat across your
kindle
shoulder.
here means something that starts a fire.
Mm-hmm.
So kindling is the
I mean, fear was
used
I would.
So a phrase of cold kindling is a rather unusual one because normally kindling.
Okay.
Well, I mean, so whatever starts out cold, can.
Because I mean, I was thinking it was more like that aspect. But...
I'd go
Shall
for
we
love.
bring you together?
I'd go for love, but I can't tie everything together with it.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, bring us together.
Okay. Because elsewhere on the great field of bodies, where Grim pokes around amongst the corpses, one of the locations there is Grim. Another one is Freydis searching for her lover. And another site reachable in this area is Sidrock. And I think you'll come across him here now. This is where you meet each other. Sidrock has been mortally wounded. He was startled by ravens that launched themselves into the air, slipped on the ice and fell back onto the stakes that had been set into the side of the ridge to protect the Danish camp from a nighttime assault. He lies now impaled on one of these great wooden spears wedged into the hillside. He is, of course, dying, and the injury is mortal. I think that Bugbear and Motley, Wally, and Tumbleguts will have come across him first. He's desperate and gabbles kind of half madly, but wants somebody to grant him a warrior's death.
I will.
Tumbleguts will happily walk over to him, put his hand down. By your sword or another's?
We must both be armed. I'm no warrior if I die without a weapon in my hand.
Okay. Tumbleguts will pull him off the stakes and stand him.
Okay, so when you pull him off the
Sword in
stake
hand.
with a sickening kind of pop,
Oh,
then of course blood starts like gushing out of him, and his facial complexion starts going through the colours very rapidly. He'll only have, minutes left with this sort of blood loss. He'll call to you, Wally, to say, "Find my sword, put it in my hand, and help me raise my hand."
I look around and do I see a sword?
Yeah, you'll see it wedged in the ice nearby.
Yeah, so I rush over and I put it in his hand and I give him my shoulder to hold him up.
Okay.
Just to
and you
give
can
him.
help him lift it high.
Do
Do you have a weapon? He says to
Yeah,
you.
I've got a cudgel.
You lift your big cudgel. And I think at the moment we'll have the arrival then of Freydis and Darkly.
OC, Tumbleguts. This guy's
Yeah.
really willing.
No, I know. That's the. I know. That was going to be the one. That was going to be.
He's really willing right now.
I know. No, that was going to be the last thing. That was going to be it.
He's
Allow
also
me
an
to take
enemy.
one thing from you.
Freydis will cry out and go bounding forwards, shouting out, "No!" And she'll sort of grab the cudgel and sort of, you're so much stronger than her that she'll struggle you with it anyway. Says, "It must not be you. I'll do it."
No, he's asked for this from a fellow warrior. Give him this honor.
She'll take her helmet off, and with her blonde hair flowing in the snowy, sleety wind, the two lovers will recognise each other. And Sidrock will say, "Better it is her."
Indeed.
I'm still
May I
holding
take
his
one
arm.
thing from you, as I say, after you have gone? It will not be missed in the afterlife.
So, what Sidrock asks is that, Wally, could you lift up his arm so that he can at least clash his sword against Freydis's spear?
Absolutely. So,
Wang, the two weapons meet. Freydis, with tears freezing to her cheeks, pulls back her spear and thrusts it straight through Sidrock's throat. And he slumps to his knees and then tips sideways onto the ice. Sidrock stands over his body and declares, "Death is a fate far better than life, greater than fate, greater than love. I name you Sidrock Heartbreaker now, for you have proved love greater than death." This is Elder Law of Swords. Does anybody want to take it into their soul and add it to their character sheet?
I shall.
Fitting.
I will put it into the chat. I know that you're not allowed to, there's a ban on from the light on speaking glees, but maybe you'll find yourself in a situation where there's really no alternative. In which case, this is Elder Law of Swords, makes for an amazing role in battle, useful for other things too. There it is, it's in the chat. Does this make you consider Grimswood Riddle again? Freydis hunkers down next to the body of Sidrock, maneuvers his head into her lap, plants her spear in the soil. "I will not move from this place."
Coolio. Ace. I mean, I think Tankworth is like in two minds. I think he's looking down at the sword and being like, is this what I'm supposed to do now? Like, I think he's gonna rather gingerly pick up the sword.
Freydis won't notice.
Yeah. I think he's gonna look at sort of sideways.
The sword bothers you. It's cold iron.
Yeah. So it's a really ginger sort of thing to touch.
Yeah.
And I think I make a motion with my other hand, like a thrusting motion, looking sort of sideways. Okay, I'm just gonna straight up coup de grace, like through the back of the neck.
You're going to kill him.
Yeah, that was my oath.
No, your oath is solved now. Your
Oh
oath is
right,
to bring them together.
all right. I
Whoa.
thought it was to
Yeah.
join them. However,
No,
like
no.
they.
I think that's a radical interpretation of
Well,
it.
that
How
was
do
my.
you-
This is why do you think I'm looking sideways at everyone?
Oh, I
Like,
know.
can
I was
someone
wondering.
say
I couldn't
something?
We
I
just
couldn't follow your thinking there.
This
Where's
is
he
why I
going
was
with
just
this?
like, is this what
Yeah.
my GM wants me to do? Like, picking up the sword, like,
Well,
maybe?
hey, that would be a role playing mode. Swear you will go with me to seek my love and stay with me till I am beside him again.
Right.
And I think that oath is fulfilled.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Right, because I did ask, like,
Yeah.
alive
Yeah.
or dead, and you were just like, whichever he is. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, so, I mean,
No, I
have
just
to...
meant that if
Oh.
he's dead, find his corpse, and if he's alive.
Oh, right,
know,
I thought you
yeah.
meant,
You.
like, do her in or heal him. Like,
I love that. That's a real dark Fey interpretation of things.
Yeah,
I
well,
think
that's why...
Mr.
Well,
There darkly goes to chop her head off like Wally.
This is why I was like...
What you doing, man?
Yeah, this is... But I was like, well, this is kind of common, right? Like...
So that's why I was like, yeah,
Oh,
how I understood it as well.
This is what mortals do, is
Kill him.
it?
Yeah, like,
Right,
in my
folks.
experience.
Oh, no wonder I see so many
Options.
of them.
You fulfilled an oath. You could shrink the Nemesis time, but it's quite
Mhm.
small. You could gain a
Yeah.
free respite.
Yeah, does this
Right
have to be
now.
chosen now?
It does.
Okay. Well, I think the free respite is not a bad
Let's
thing
take
to
that.
have.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody refreshes all their dice and renews all of their resolve back to maximum.
Excellente.
Phew.
Smashing.
When you look up from your rest, the kind of cackling figure of Grim has returned. Looking at the grieving girl and her lover, says, do you have a solution for my riddle?
Like, I think as a Fae, I think I end up just pointing as my cryptic answer.
In that case, Grim will circle the two lovers, and he sort of straightens up a little bit. Don't crouch so much. His cackling diminishes. He blinks with surprise. Yes, I suppose that must be the answer. He's got a little bit of his majesty about him now. Swear to me, he says, that when I return demanding a gift, you will grant it. Then I will give you my blessing.
I swear.
Yeah, you take that divine oath. You're now under oath, Bugbear. Yeah, you will give Grim what he asks for when he returns. You can call on his blessing. The old hag, he says, has made all things swear to do no harm to her warrior son, who you have met. She has extracted oaths from the ice in winter and from the blossom in spring. Ah, but what of the thorn that blossoms in winter?
Oh, I knew I should have brought that.
That might prick his tender flesh and lay the warrior low.
I knew I should have brought that item.
What item was that?
Hawthorn steak.
Yeah, well,
That's Boulder.
yeah. Well, there was a blackthorn tree.
Mm-hmm.
You know the location of that.
Right, let's go and get a weed.
Yep.
Well, your original plan had been to go up to the Danish camp. Is that still in your thinking?
Well, I figure he might be up there.
I mean, it's not every day you get to kill a demigod.
No, this is very true. But is we can save him. There is something inside him that wants to be saved.
You did sense
Can
that.
we pull him out? Or it
Yeah.
out? Whatever it may be. Instead of say, could that be easier than trying to fell the unfellable?
Well,
What
the
a good
point.
thought.
Well, if you are going to go around and ask everything, apart from the lowliest weed, to save your son, as vanity.
Hmm.
And look at the time. It's 9:45.
Mm-hmm.
I've very much enjoyed this. It's taken a bit longer than I perhaps anticipated, but that's because all the scenes are so intense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can we return and finish this off in a week's time?
Let me double check my diary.
So let's do our little sign off here. I hope everybody's enjoyed it. I'm not going to be
Mhm.
checking for advancements and rewards. It seems to be we're in the thick of things here. We'll do all of that at the end of the entire scenario. But
Excellent.
everybody will get a card and can, if they like, roll a d20 to see what reward card they're getting.
7.
An 8.
Mm-hmm.
Also a 7.
So a 7 is the wagon for you, Dankworth Darkly, which enables you to
Chariot.
purchase a craft virtue, and you are crafty, so that wouldn't hurt.
Indeed.
And an 8, strength. That's gain a martial virtue for you, Tumbleguts, and you are martial, so you wouldn't mind another one of those. That's cost 5, so not an easy thing to pick up right at the outset. Not an easy thing at all. And how about you, Wally?
That was the 8.
Oh, so that's strength as well. Now you're not a martial character, so you've got no
No.
particular use for that.
So I can just swap that with something.
You'll swap that for something. Yes.
I did also roll a 7, so that would be craft. I think it said a craft virtue, which I'm not.
Oh,
which I'm
sorry, I
not.
thought you'd said 8. Well, I'm
No, it's fine.
so 7's a craft virtue. Yeah.
We should have
Yeah.
swapped dice.
Should
We'll
have done.
swap cards. Yes, we can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, then I will see you all again next session when we'll wrap up Masters of War and possibly for some surprises in the final denouement. Great, everybody. Thank you so
Excellent.
much.
Thank you very
And,
much. And
Thank
goodbye,
you,
all.
thank you all.
Have a safe evening.